Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today I'm going to be looking at General Admission, the June deck from the King's Wild Shorts line. If you've never seen King's Wild Shorts, you should really check it out. It is sort of the premier subscription service from King's Wild Project. Every single month, designer Jackson Robinson puts together a uniquely inspired deck, draws his inspiration from all sorts of different places, and it's really the series in my mind where he lets his creativity really run wild in producing some really interesting decks. Now, this particular deck is inspired by vintage ticket stubs. When you think back to like ticket stubs that were used for baseball games or whatever, they would have all sorts of different bright, vibrant colors, interesting little printing elements, maybe as a security feature or something like that, so you couldn't counterfeit the tickets. But really kind of bright, vibrant colors, and you can really see that come to life in this deck. So let's find out how he did. All right, starting with the tuck. It's a regular glossy finish tuck case without any embossing or anything like that. Just has very bold General Admission across the front, and it's got a lot of color and striping, just all sorts of different patterns going on. You got yellow stripes, green and blue going all over the place, and it's laid out to look a little bit like a ticket. Down here with a section, row, and seat number, 19, row 8, seat 2. That makes out 1982, which is the year Jackson Robinson was born. And then you've got standard edition, the year of 2020. And then across the top, enter gate number 13. 13 is a little bit of a recurring number in a lot of King's Wild decks, as well as King's Wild Project labeled there. And then you can see designed by Jackson Robinson in small print across the side. But lots of beautiful color, and you can see just kind of an array of different patterns. Some of it kind of looks like it's stamped on ink, other parts dots and wavy patterns, just all sorts of almost random haphazard patterns going all over the place. So a really cool, bright, vibrant look to the front of the tuck. As you turn to the sides, it's got General Admission and another number 13 on one side, same thing on the other. Ad copy for Jackson Robinson and King's Wild Project on the bottom. Also, of course, includes his signature Bible verse in 1 Thessalonians, and mentions this deck is printed by the Expert Playing Card Company. The top has King's Wild Project in a flowing script there. And in the back, you can get a little preview of the super colorful back design of the cards. We'll take a look at that in more detail in a second. Inner flap here, a little snippet from Thessalonians. Work with your hands, mind your own business, as well as just kind of a pattern look with almost kind of a watermark look at the King's Wild Project logo there. And then number 13 printed on the inner flaps. Nothing else printed on the interior of the tuck case, but that's it. Really bright and I would say photogenic tuck case there. Really like the look of that one. Now onto the cards themselves, and here is the back design. I mentioned it was full of color, and it absolutely is. The main, your eyes kind of drawn to the reflected King's Wild Project logo there, the king with the gas mask, as well as the script King's Wild Project kind of cut off on the top and the bottom. It's kind of cut off almost as if this was a ticket where the pattern was sort of printed across and you tore off one of the tickets. Then the background is filled with this really beautiful and super highly intricate scroll work, almost like the roofline of a building or something like that across the sides. Really beautiful, really intricate, almost kind of currency level of detail in terms of just the finer elements that are put in there. I love the juxtaposition of that with the kind of crazy random feeling use of color everywhere else in the deck. I love that kind of positioning, to have that level of detail and then almost stamped on look of that King's Wild Project logo. The color is just all sorts of different random looks to it, from the greens and reds, yellows, a little bit of blue in there as well. So lots of different colors of ink used, and that color extends all the way to the border. So there is kind of the appearance of a border on it, but the color extends right through the border into the edge of the card. So really cool, very bright, vibrant back design to the cards. Now the cards themselves continue with the color right to the edge of the card. Here's the two jokers. Again, they're kind of laid out to look like a ticket. So you've got on the top and the bottom the card and suit areas where you might see the section row seat of regular ticket. So you've got the red star in there. The card is labeled as Joker, 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 Joker. And then the suit as well on these is Joker. Lots of different colors. And then in the center, you have almost kind of squeezed in there a pair of jesters. So one of them's in the yellow and the red. The other two are the blue and the purple jesters. Those kind of chubby guys there. So there is the two Jokers. Lots of color on those. I do like those. And it doesn't stop as you get into the rest of the deck. Starting with the Ace of Spades, again, that same layout with the ticket at the top, this time with A, Ace, and Spades labeled there. And then you have the large spade pip in the center with King's Wild Project and the World's Finest Playing Cards written down there. So very cool kind of vintage feel to it. You also have a border that's printed with a bunch of little tiny spades. And then, like I said, the color extending all the way through, right down to the little AAA there in the corner for the ace. So lots of labels of the ace. Definitely a little bit, I kind of prefer, if you want to use it as a usable deck, for that spade and for the pip and index to be a little bit closer to the corner, just so you can see it a little bit more easily when you fan this. You can see there, it's a little bit hard to differentiate. You got to fan it a little bit further. But it is a really cool, beautiful, and bright color to the card there. The number cards continue that same pattern, the twos and spades, and then the 222 written up at the top and the bottom. But the center there, kind of this condensed space where you have the two spade pips, and pretty standard look to the spade pips all the way through. Does get a little bit cramped in there as you get to the 10, just because they've used up so much of the space for the top and the bottom. But I still like the look of it quite a bit. And then here are the courts. And again, you got kind of a cramped feel to the courts themselves. Interesting to do not just two characters on each of the court cards reflected, but also to do full body courts, which is interesting. Kind of funny proportions to them there with the smaller legs and the larger looking head. But pretty cool to have the two full body courts on each one of the cards. Definitely makes it look a little bit cramped, but I love how he kind of wove them together to kind of help them, it's not like a clean break down the center. Still a pretty cool look to the court cards. Nice little detail here. I'd mentioned that little QQQ, and each one of the cards has the triple suit or value designation there. A little attention to detail. Only did 2 Ks on the king, because obviously the third K would imply something we don't want to get into. So nice little attention to detail to take off that third K. Now, as you go to the diamonds, it's going to be very similar, swapped out, of course, black to red now, and also a different kind of color scheme to it. So where this was a lot of kind of aqua and green and yellow, now you switch over to an orange and blue for the diamonds. The center still has kind of an open space where you can put the pips in there. This one's a little bit more of a diamond-shaped open space, but very similar look. And we can see as we go through the number cards and into the courts as well. Very cool. Love the color swap on these. And then as you go into the clubs, you get another color swap. Now more greens and kind of a darker blue. And a zigzag pattern over there. Pretty cool. And then through the number card for the clubs, one more color swap as we get to the hearts. Now a lot more like pinks and oranges, kind of a sunburst feel to it. And down through the hearts, finishing with the ace of hearts. And that's it. As far as usefulness of the deck, or handling I should say, handles really nicely. Not as well as like a USBCC deck, a little bit clumpy, but it does still fan really nicely. I will say that this design, while it looked very cool in fans, it's also really unforgiving of a less than perfect fan, just because of how much detail there is in the corner. Your fan is a little bit off, and I mean, you can see every spot there where it clumped right, didn't fan it quite as well. But it is still a really beautiful design where those colors definitely show off these uses in fans, either from the front or from the back. So great way to show off some of that color. Usefulness of the deck, I think really honestly it's more of an art deck than anything else. A lot more going on here than you really want for Magic. And for gameplay, same kind of problem. Exacerbating the problem for gameplay is the fact that those pips and indices are not close to the corner, so you can't even use this in kind of a narrow fan and even see what card you have without really fanning that out really far. Definitely limits its usefulness for gameplay. I think for me, you know, it handles okay for cardistry, so definitely those colors would look really nice in cardistry. But it's not, I wouldn't call this a cardistry deck by any means. It is more just an art deck to enjoy. So I thoroughly enjoyed this deck. I love the use of color. I will also say, if you're planning on using this deck for something, some of that color is definitely going to show up from the side. So depending again on how you want to use this for gameplay or anything like that, that may limit down how useful this is going to be, right? Because I can clearly see where each of the suits is based on that color from the side. That said, really beautiful deck. I love the inspiration of the vintage ticket stubs, and I think it's really well captured in the brightness of this deck. That color is one of the most photogenic deck things that I've seen in a while. So that's it. That is the standard edition of the general admission cards. Now there are a couple of other versions. I also get the limited edition version of the deck, so this is that one. In this particular case, there's not actually a huge amount of difference between the limited and the standard version. It really is just a few different color swaps. You can see some of those subtly there. And instead of the year 2020, it's got 265 of 500 total decks. So it is numbered. You do get some slight color swaps on there, but really fairly similar compared to other decks. You'll see kind of a more drastic difference between them. That's it. That is the look at the general admission deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what other decks you want to see in the future. Subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings, and I'll see you for the next one.